Perhaps I mean, how much do you know about hedgelaying?
I don't know hardly anything about it.
Oh well, I must start at the beginning then. Here we go. This here was a big stem going up as high as where those boughs are up there, the bottom boughs. So a big tall stem. And what you have to do is you have to cut at an angle like that to a point where you take it away, and this is bent around. So what's happening is that about a quarter or less of the sap rising in this stem is still going to happily rise up that side. This is all dead wood, usually inside the stem, but there's no problem with it being exposed. And that will continue to stay alive then for several years in the case of that. It's such a big piece. So what will happen now is in the spring, this will be stimulated to throw up shoots all the way along its length, and you'll end up with a massive thick growth from low down. I haven't finished yet because I'm going to get a manual digger and take a sill ditch here and put all the spoil in the gaps, so you end up with dirt right up to here.
So
and because that's lying down, it'll do layering, it'll root into the ground, and that will keep it living even longer.
Is it hazel particularly that's the best wood for hedge laying then?
Hazel is the easiest. It doesn't snap so much. If you get hawthorn or blackthorn, they're much better hedges because they're thorny. So the animals don't like sticking their noses in there. But they are stiff, and you can much more easily snap hawthorn and blackthorn. Hazel's good. Willow's useless because it's a lovely bendy thing, but it's not a substantial plant, so it doesn't stop the stock. I'm pleased with these. I've got to say, I'm really pleased with those cuts. It's just fabulous.
Well, because when you say you're pleased with the cut, what is it about it? The fact that you've left enough, that it's kind of clean, that...
Yes, this is a bit ugly because there's a slot there, which that could create rot. So that is less impressive than these two. There's just less of a... The more flaky stuff like this, the worse it is. But
and the more you do it, the more skilled you get at it.
Yeah. I used to cut it much too shallow an angle. So that's a long angle, which gives you a better chance of getting the right thickness here before you attempt to bend it. This would only bend down here because everywhere further up is thicker. But it bends quite smoothly there.
And what implement do you use to do that? Do you use a machete, a bill hook?
In this case, it's so big I use a chainsaw. But a bill hook is what you use as well, because all the small stuff has to be taken off further up. So if you go back 10 years, I didn't know how to do this, and I just knew it needed doing. Then I picked up how and realised that this is really pleasurable. You know, I mean, and it's actually...
I've probably laid 2 kilometres of hedgerow now, and I feel I can do it. So that really took about 7 years to get that much done. I'm definitely still learning, but I've got to a stage where I don't compete in hedgelaying contests. It's not the kind of thing I want to do that, but I feel comfortable that what I'm doing is now the right thing in terms of the process of making a laid hedge. It exposes you to all the different species that are grown in a hedge, and after a while you see that they behave differently with a bill hook or a chainsaw. But then you'd still need to be looking at it as the hedge recovers from being laid. So it would be something we'd have to dip into over a period of time, come back and look at it. It's not something I could do in 10 minutes or half a day, for instance. It was something which you definitely need to be looking at the same thing in 3 years' time to see what it's like to do what I do. Well, when it comes to a hedge, you have to start at the top. It's not north, south, east or west, it's the high point. Because you lay a hedge uphill and you have to lay on top of what you've already laid. So there is a start that's prescribed by the gradient on the ground.
Why do you lay it uphill?
You have to lay it uphill. That's a really good question. I'll give you an insightful answer. You're laying it over. If you lay it totally horizontal, then the sap is going to find it a little bit more unnatural to find its way travelling down to go up to the leaves. But worse than that, in the winter, when the sap is supposed to go down into the roots, it'll stay up there, and then you'll have frost, which will damage the contents of the cellular structure of the plant. So you mustn't lay downhill. It's a rule. And, well, it wasn't ever explained to me until I got to a bloke who was doing a farm walk or something. I've often asked this question, well, people lay uphill, well, why do they have to? It's because of the frost. But you have to start at the top of the hill, because if you lay from the bottom of the hill, you'll be laying on top of what you haven't done yet. Right? So it starts vertical, it's going to go over that way, which is uphill. If you want to move to the next one, it's got to be down here. So you've got to move downhill. So there's a natural prescription to the direction you move in with laying a hedge. No, I don't do whistling and humming, but some of my work, not out in the hedges, I don't need anything to keep me going in the hedges, but I find some of my work is a bit towards monotonous, and so I'm looking forward to seeing progress in it. But to get through each step of it, it is helpful to have some music playing. So I've got an iPod that the kids gave me at Christmas about 3 years ago, which is stacked full of the material that I like to listen to. So, and it's relatively modern actually. Things like Arcade Fire and Garbage are really good rhythmic things to process wood with. So that's what I do. I play some Arcade Fire and Garbage.
If you could pass something on, perhaps a skill or piece of knowledge you've gained, what would it be?
Yeah,
philosophy? What's your manifesto?
Yeah, you've got the manifesto. I mean, I think it's okay. I think it's okay that if the materials you handle day to day inspire you to do something which is not focal to the job you're supposed to do, I think it's okay to just do it, to take that distraction. I would like everybody to feel like that, because it's very satisfying.
Yeah.
And why shouldn't people do that? I don't know if people, people serving people in shops perhaps don't come across that inspiration from what they do in their work, but. And I didn't.
What else can they do with a cash till?
Yeah, exactly. And nothing like that happened when I was working for my living. So that is what I would say. I would say, if you get distracted by the stuff you've got used to, making you want to do something totally purposeless with, then for goodness sake, do it. Just don't go against the grain. Enjoy it.